right, guys, we're back. It's another episode of the Fearless Pursuit of Freedom podcast, and today's guest is none other than John Martinez himself. From what I can tell, he is one of the top trainers in the real estate platform for knocking down sales. Anyhow, I'll let you do the introductions there. Just tell a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and your niche there.
Yeah, no problem. From corporate America, I've been building, started out as an all-commission sales guy, worked my way up through a couple of large companies, tech companies, manufacturing companies, and so on. Worked my way into sales management and then into some more senior level roles, VP of sales, director of sales and marketing, those types of roles. Been doing that for about 20 years. About 4 or 5 years ago, our sales training business went into real estate investment, and we started with a couple companies. Today, it's really taken over our sales training company. So we focus solely today on real estate investment. I think we've worked with somewhere around 400 or 500 investment companies now. We train, mostly we train the companies that are hitting that level where they're starting to scale up and add acquisition agents. And either the owner of the company says, I don't want to train the acquisition agents, or I don't feel like I'm equipped to because I know how to sell, but I just do it off of gut feeling nowadays. So I don't know really how to transfer that. So typically that's where we step in. 10-15% of our clients are owner-led sales. So they still are taking the leads and trying to convert them, but they just want, anything to help them do a little bit more of that. We jump in on and help as well.
Right. And so it sounds like this is a hands-on, one-on-one type of deal and online.
Yeah. So we do these like live boot camps 2 or 3 times a year where we just get about 50, 75 people in a room, and we go through everything over 2 days, the whole conversation, all, tactics, techniques, strategies, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then we have online where we get, I just do it once a week for an hour. We get about 150 to 200 people on that call once a week. So
Really?
When we started off, it was all one-on-one because we really needed to figure the business out. I know sales, but I didn't know real estate investment. So I spent probably about a year to a year and a half just traveling the country and doing that one-on-one type of stuff where I'd go to California or to Houston or to Pennsylvania, and I'd hop in the car with an acquisition agent and I'd say, all right, give me a whack at it. And I'd close a deal, and then we'd switch spots and they do the sales call, and I'd kind of coach them through it afterwards and stuff like that. So even though I'm not in real estate, I'm not an active real estate investor. I've purchased somewhere between 100 and 200 houses for other companies, not for mine, if that makes sense.
Man, you should get some sort of royalties off of that.
I know, man. We just wanted to figure it out, though. If we're going to be training people, I was like, I need to have said, I've been there, I've done that. I know the conversations. I've been in the homes. I've walked them, and I've done the deals. So for me, it was just more of a credibility thing.
Right.
So the training was more effective.
Right. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And where are you based out of?
Yeah, I'm in Missouri. So I am right in the heart of the country. Almost the middle of nowhere. We actually have some large investors in the area, even though it's a small town. I think the MSA is like 160,000 people.
Really?
But we do have some large players in town doing it. So, that's one thing that surprised me is I thought the real estate investment thing was only for really big cities, a million plus. But the more and more we do this, we're finding investors that are doing 150 plus deals a year that are in towns of, around 100,000 people, give or take. And that's really, really surprised me because I didn't think there were that many deals in towns that size.
Right. Yeah. That's one thing I've learned over the past year or so is the more and more networking events I go to, the ones that seem to be the real OGs or the ones with the true wealth, they're just good old boys down in South Texas buying up hundreds of thousands of acres and houses and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. I mean, you could do this business anywhere. There almost is no town that's too small. So it's cool. Yeah.
No, that's cool. I've thought about that too, because I live in DFW and it's extremely saturated right now with wholesalers and investors and, every niche. There isn't a niche that isn't untouched right now. And I thought about taking off and going find some small town and, it's like taking it over and making it my town. But there's got to be an investor in every town.
There is, like I said, we've trained hundreds, and everyone always asks me, like, how is my area? Is it competitive? And it's like, everyone's competitive, right? It's like, if it's a small town with 50,000 people, there's 2 or 3 investors there. It's saturated. If it's DFW, I know dozens of high-level investors doing, 100+ deals a year in DFW. That is like, every market is competitive. There's not like just go here. That's an easy one. No competition at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, there's got to be, like you said, several dozens that are doing over 100. So, I mean, the transactions per month in DFW have got to be near 1,000.
Got to be.
More. It's crazy. So then I think about that, like, man, that's a lot of houses. But then if you look at the bird's eye of DFW, there's millions of houses. So plenty of opportunity.
Absolutely.
Without giving away your whole deal here, what would you say to a business owner that was training a new person? What would be the first kick in the butt step for that new acquisition person?
Man, I'm just going to start like really high level overview, and I'm happy to get as deep into the weeds with anything you want to. I don't really hold anything back, so no worries there. Man, I'd say the first thing is if you're on the side of the fence where you haven't hired the person yet, you want to hire the right person, because even with like the right training systems and even if you do everything right when you're training somebody, I mean, we've all seen this. You've got the wrong person. You've just got the wrong person. And what happens is you try to make them the right person, and you use all this time and energy and resources and training trying to get them to that spot where they need to be. And what typically happens is if you don't have the right person, if you haven't done some testing and stuff on the front end, then after you put all that energy into them, like, you don't want to let them go. You go, geez, I've spent 2 or 4 or 6 weeks training this person. Like, you just keep trying to get them over that hump. And I've seen so many investors just waste months and tons of money and tons of leads that might have turned into deals with the wrong people. Yeah. So the first bit of advice is use some type of system or assessment or personality profile, just something to try to get the right person. So a lot of people use DISC. That's really popular with a lot of groups. Right. There's another one that the name escapes me. You might know of it. It's similar to DISC, but the name, I can't think of it right now. We recommend one called OMG because it's just based on sales only. It's not based on like personality. It's based on can and will people actually sell for you. It's got a good track record. Right. But whatever you use, we recommend just use something to try to whittle down that field. Yeah. So that'd be my first big piece of advice. Once you think you got the right person and you're training them, the way I would train them is pretty simple. This is the easiest, most effective way I've seen. It's not too difficult. Use some type of online platform or a book. Like, shoot, I've got the book right behind me. Let me see if I can find it here. Brian, excuse me, I'm looking for a book. I got all kinds of sales books behind me. But you can. There's 1,001 sales books out there about sales process. So I'd use a book or a video series. There's probably no shortage of investors with sales training programs out there on the acquisition side. You might have one where you just create like 5 or 10 Zoom videos, but I'd always leverage that first to get a foundation, some type of program, so the business owner doesn't get too invested up front. So you can let your systems do the work. So use some type of program to get the basics down. We do that a lot with our training, but our training isn't the only thing out there. Like I said, there's tons of free stuff. A lot of people use our free training actually to get that base down. Yeah. We got free training videos called like the 21-day sales challenge. And like, I think we got almost 100 videos on our website. People use that. So you don't even need to buy anything. So find a way to automate that piece. And then as far as like where the rubber really hits the road, I recommend doing kind of like I explained to you when I was out training sales reps. What you do is you want them to watch you first. So either the business owner or a seasoned sales rep, get them in the car with the new sales rep and have the sales rep the new person do nothing but watch, just soak it all in. And then what you do is over the course of 2 to 3 days is you start handing off chunks of the conversation to them. So you go, all right, now you open up the conversation, then I'll take back over. Now you go a little bit deeper, and then I'll take back over. Now you go all the way until the end, and then I'll, explain the deal and the close and all that. And you just do that over a few days until the roles have swapped, and the trainer is now just watching and observing and giving feedback after the sales call, stepping in only if they need to. Yeah. And that's really the most efficient way to train. So some type of automated program, online program, something like that, videos, whatever it is. And then they just watch, and then you transition into they're doing the doing, and the seasoned rep or the owner of the company is doing the watching.
Yep. Okay. What would you suggest for an owner that isn't so good at acquisitions themselves?
Yeah, I would recommend, it's always learning wherever you can, but
right.
A couple of quick tips that really seem to go a long way that I could give right here that in some cases we've heard have doubled conversion rates on leads. Quick tip is this. The biggest thing that investors run into are just getting tons of like maybes, thinking overs. Let me run it by this person, just like some kind of no answer at the end of sales calls.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because most people don't want to make a decision for a variety of reasons, aren't ready to make a decision for a variety of reasons. And most investors aren't in this to be salespeople, and they don't want to put pressure on people and put them in that uncomfortable situation because that makes them uncomfortable, and they don't want to be like that pushy salesperson. They're not in it to be that, don't want to be that.
Right.
So that's why most sales calls end that way. So what I recommend is it's a rule we teach called, yes is good, no's okay too. And then also there's no such thing as maybes or think it overs. There's yes, there's no, and there's nothing in between. Anything other than a yes, that's a no by default. If you learn to live by those rules and you're just really gentle about it, then you're going to double your close rate. Essentially, that's what a lot of our clients tell us. So I'll tell you real quick just how to do that. It's just a small chunk of our training, actually. So if you get anything other than a yes, then by default you got to just say, "Hey, listen, you use your own words, but hey, listen, we've talked about a lot, and I get this. This is a big decision. There's a lot of moving pieces. Makes total sense. But I think at this point, if you're not comfortable, if you're not confident that this is the right way to go, we probably just need to make it a no." Sounds scary at first because you're like, well, am I killing deals that I could get later? But here's what happens when you just start giving that soft, gentle no. And notice that's not like a let's do it now, let's do it now, let's do it now, because that's what causes that pressure. Sales, prospects hate that, sellers hate that. And then investors hate doing that because it's like, oh, I feel slimy. I feel like I'm just, being one of those guys, those high pressure type of salespeople. No one wants that. It just sucks. That feeling sucks. So when you go the opposite way, and instead of pushing for the yes, you make it a no. Here's what happens. We always see three things that happen, which is awesome, which is what you want to see happen on deals. Sometimes it is a no, like they've already decided it's a no. But no one really tells you no. They just say like, well, let me think about it because it's a nice way to put you off.
Right.
So if it really is a no, they figure that out right up front. And, if it is a no, you want to know, that way you can plan from real data, right? Do I want to keep going after it? Do I want to put them in a drip? Do I want to figure out why it's a no? At least you've got data. You're working off of, a stable foundation. So if it is a no, you want to know. You don't want to be left in the dark. So that's good alone. The next thing it does is lots of times they're motivated and they want to do something, but there's no need to, right? There's no like hard stop. There's, usually in our lives, and there's a big decision or a decision like this, we don't just like make it right away. It's like, all right, when it's go time and our back's up against the wall, when we absolutely have to make a decision, that's when we finally make it. So for some of the leads you talk to, that's when they're like, when you give them that no, they're like, well, hold on a second. I've thought enough about this. This is killing me for a long time. Let's just do it. So It's just that enough to push them over the edge.
Yeah.
The fear of loss type of thing. And it says, all right, it's decision time. So for some, they're going to say yes eventually. It just brings that yes to the now. And then the final thing it does, the third thing it does is lots of times if there's any motivation and there's just something they're worried about or there's something they're uncomfortable with or haven't figured out yet, it finally comes up to the surface so you can deal with it. So, you go, hey, if it's not a yes, totally understand. but we probably need to call it a no. You often hear these words. Well, no, it's not that. I'm not saying it's a no. It's just that. And then, I don't know where I'm going to go. I don't know what I'm going to do about this. I haven't figured this out. I'm still a little uncomfortable with this. That bubbles to the top, and now you can deal with it right then. And some of those will turn into deals. So for that investor that wants to close more deals, go online, watch videos, do all that stuff. But that little piece right there, if you implement it on every sales call, that can and has in the past doubled conversion rate. So it's just a very small piece, very easy for anyone to implement that could have a big, big impact on business.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to the basic of sales is trying to find out what their motivation is.
Yeah.
And so if you get that fear of loss in them, then we're almost forced to throw out that motivation or those describing factors where you can use that, not necessarily as leverage, but as more ammunition to throw at them.
Yeah.
And you have more knowledge about why.
Yeah. And it is leverage. It is ammunition, but it's not like we're using it against them. Right. It's sometimes just forcing them to face the facts, right?
Yeah.
When you see like, wow, like this is what's happening, and you get real, and you're like, and that motivation comes up, you're like, you know what? It is making me do this. I can't do this anymore. I have been stressing about it. Money's going here. I'm working more hours. Like when that's all out on the table, that's when the urgency to take action like really gets turned up. And it's not because you're using something against them. It's forcing people to deal with their own reality. Yeah. And if we just think about our own lives, man, when there's bad stuff going on, I know for me at least, like I just try not to think about it. I avoid it. I just put it in the back of my head. I go, I'll deal with it when I have to deal with it. But when you have the right conversation and you bring that motivation out, it sometimes puts people in that uncomfortable position where they've got to deal with it. But that's the best thing in the world you could do for them. Because if they are in a tight spot, if they are struggling with something, having them actually do something about it or helping them realize, even if it's not with you, helping them realize it's time to do something about it, that's a service. That's what the best investors in the country do.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even if it's just as simple as they don't know where they're going to move, you can provide another solution to their already big problem. So
absolutely. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about communication, right? It's, I look at sales like this, like it's not about pushing people into anything or manipulating or anything like that. It's about as getting close as possible as you can to mind reading. So the way I put it like this, I ask investors, hey, if you could, read a seller's mind, like if you could see in their head, like every reason why they'd sell their house, everything they've been dealing with, everything that goes through their head. And if you could also see what I call deal killers, every reason why they wouldn't, stuff they haven't figured out, stuff that they're uncomfortable with, stuff that's going to, be uncomfortable to carry out, like packing and moving or having some tough conversations, all that stuff. Like, so if you could see all that, if you knew exactly what they were thinking, every emotion they were feeling, could you close every deal you should be closing? And the answer is always like, yeah, probably 100%. I know exactly where the conversation needed to go. I'd know what to talk about. I would know how to handle. I know what to tiptoe around. Like, yeah, I'd close every closable deal. So when I look at sales, it's how do we structure a conversation so we could get as close as possible to that mind reading, so we could get all that stuff out onto the table? Because if we can just open that up and have just an incredibly open, honest conversation about why they would and what would hold them back, then we're going to close the closable deals. Right. Not about convincing, not about pushing. It's about just basically mind reading, if that makes sense. I know that's kind of weird, but.
Right. No, yeah, definitely makes plenty of sense. What would you say for me, I'm not good at small talk. I tend to get straight to business, but I know the value of building rapport. But sometimes I'm sitting at, the kitchen room table and they want to talk about life and stuff. And I have to force myself not to zone out. What would you say? I mean, every personality is different. So I definitely know I got to gauge, does this person want to get straight to business or they want to talk about family and stuff? But is there a magic, culmination of the two? Do you go straight to business when you get the house, or do you start, talking about family or the dog or whatever? Or what do you think is best? Is there a best?
There is. I mean, you need to, in order to have that open, honest conversation and get to that stage where you're almost mind reading, there needs to be some trust there, some rapport, that typical stuff.
Yeah.
So the cool thing is I'm like you too. I don't do small talk. I'm very bad at it, but it's absolutely necessary to build that trust.
Yeah.
So early in my sales career, I was confused. I thought in order to do that and to be good at small talk, I thought I had to be the one talking. Mm-hmm. Turns out that's not how it works best. The way rapport building works best is the more they talk, the more rapport is going to be built. So what actually happens on a biological level is when people talk about themselves to other people, there's a chemical that's released in the brain's pleasure and reward center. And it's the same chemical that's released if people eat chocolate, do a drug like cocaine, or have sexual activity. It makes them feel really good. Yeah. And that's just them talking about themselves. So once I learned that the secret was to build rapport. I didn't have to say anything, which was great news to me because I never knew what to say. I was always struggling. If it wasn't, something I was really into, I felt like I was faking it, and I didn't like that feeling. I was talking just to talk. So once I learned that it's not about me talking, it's about them talking, then I realized all I've got to do is keep them talking, ask a couple simple questions. And the more they talk, the more they like me, the more the rapport is built, even if I said almost nothing.
Yeah.
So I just ask I have an opening, question that's real simple. Like, hey, I compliment their house or their situation, anything, right? It could be a dump, but if I like the neighborhood, if they've been there a long time and had memories there, I always some kind of compliment like, hey, you've been here 20 years, must have really served you well over that time. Why in the world are you thinking about selling? And whatever they say, I just keep them talking, right? Yeah. So like, they're called Socratic questions, right? Socrates taught through asking questions. So you don't even they're just always real simple questions like, really? Well, why is that? Why do you think that? How long has that been going on? Yeah. You don't say, hey, is that a big deal? Is that a little deal? So right. I can use those same questions. That's not even building off what they're saying. Like, I don't have to have this like amazing question. I just get them to keep talking. Yeah. And I've learned that if you can do that, if an investor can do that for 10 or 15 minutes, that rapport is strong.
Right.
You don't have to have any commonalities. Don't have to fake it. Don't have to do a lot of talking. But just a couple of Socratic questions like that keep them talking. Sometimes not even questions, just stuff like, wow. We call them softening statements, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That keeps them talking just long enough to really build that solid rapport. So that's really good for people like you and me.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't remember where I learned that, but I always have open-ended questions when I want even the most basic text or emails. There'll always be a question at the end to keep them talking, so I don't have to figure out where the conversation go with clients and potential partners and networking events. But would you say there's a difference between a face-to-face meeting versus a phone call? I oftentimes catch myself on the phone. In my mind, I'm like, okay, stop talking. I need to hear what they're saying. But I'm like, I just want to know the details, tell me about your roof. But then in person, we're sitting on the couch, we're talking about the pictures on the wall, we're doing all those things. Should there be a difference, or should it just be the
good question? Yeah, I mean, that's a good question, especially today, because I'd say, over the last 3 or 4 years, I've seen a big change in REI, where when we first started training, it was like 95% face-to-face, 5% virtual. Today, when I look at our client base, it's probably closer to 30 or 35% virtual, and then the rest is face-to-face. So it's shifting as people move into other markets, as they get better at lead production, they need to go through those leads quicker and filter quicker and all that kind of stuff. There's a big shift. So conversation should be the exact same. It's easier to have that conversation face to face, right? On the phone, it's hard to gauge. It's hard to, just like this, man, I'm looking at you right now on the computer screen. Mm-hmm. Like, if I want to formulate my thoughts and I just go silent and you see me kind of looking off to the side or looking up and like trying to think of what I'm trying to say, or just actively listening, hearing what you're saying, that type of stuff. Like, we can have those silent moments. It's not awkward. It's not weird. You can see, we can kind of feel it out. Right. On the phone though, 30 seconds of silence, you're like, are you still there? Like, did you just tune me out? So
Right.
Same conversation. You want to do say and ask and figure out all the same stuff, but I'd say it is easier face to face for those reasons. It's just easier. It's communication. Yeah. So,
right.
Seeing is part of it.
So that's interesting. And I guess I had known it, but never really thought about the correlation between face-to-face versus the amount of people that are trying to get deals over the phone. Would you recommend? I mean, I know a lot of people personally that are doing their damnedest to get that deal locked up over the phone, and they're getting emails, they're sending contracts right away. Is it pros, cons? Is it a strategy that you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually pretty simple. So, if you have, for me, it all comes down to lead flow. So if you've got, let's say, you're a small company, you're in one area in your home market, and you've got 5 to 20 leads a week coming in. I'm just throwing out those numbers. Don't hold me to that. But you've got relatively low lead flow. Yeah. You can work through them pretty quick. In that case, I'm going to recommend go see everyone you can see, because your conversion rates are going to be higher face to face. So right there, it's just bar none. There's no doubt about it. You will convert more face to face. But there comes a time with some companies where, again, lead production, they get really good at it, or maybe they're moving into virtual markets and things like that, where it starts to make sense to go over the phone. Number one, if lead production's high, you can't go out and see everyone. So that means if you're trying to, you're just going to leave a lot of deals behind. So then you got to move to trying to do it virtually. Yeah. And doing it virtually, you're going to be able to touch all the leads. You're going to be able to touch a lot more leads, qualify them quickly, get through them. You are going to lose a little bit on the conversion, but because you're just having more of the sales conversation, net effect is you're going to do more deals. Right. So low lead, I'm seeing everyone face to face. High leads, where it's like, hey, listen, we have 250 leads come in this week. We're not going to have 250 appointments, or we're not even going to see everyone who wants to see us. Right. How do we whittle this down so we can have 30 sales conversations per rep a day, instead of just, most are going to, if you go face to face, you're going to max out at 7, 8, 9 with travel time and stuff. Yeah. So that's when it makes sense. Virtual as well. So, if you're getting 5 leads a week, you go see every single one. But there comes a time where that doesn't make sense anymore. Right. And it also doesn't make sense with lead flow that high to go, well, now I'm going to have 20 acquisition agents, because some are going to fall. You're just going to have inefficiencies there too. You're going to have turnover. That's a beast to manage. So to me, it all comes down to lead flow.
Right. So my marketing in particular is, I turned off my foreclosure marketing. Just DFW, there's just so many people marketing foreclosure. I hate going there. And then there's 12 people lined up behind me. So my marketing has been foreclosure, probates, code violations, a variety of different motivations. Yeah. Is there a different strategy for, say, a probate who lost their parent or loved one or whatever versus a foreclosure? Or is it, you've got a motivated situation, I've got a solution, it's the same approach?
Exact same conversation. Now, we've got a very simple sales process. It sets the stage for open, honest communication. Just kind of take down some of the barriers so you can have the right conversation. Next is about motivation, like really bringing to the surface, like you mentioned before. Mm-hmm. So we have what's called problem, impact, and picture perfect questions. Those are going to be the same any situation. It's just that the answers to those questions, and then the next part is deal killers. Anything that can, any speed bumps, anything that's going to stop the deal, any reason why they'd say no. We cover those things. So we're going to ask the same exact questions no matter what the situation. The only thing that's going to change is their answers, their motivation, their deal killers. They're going to give different answers, but it's always the same, because, hey, we want to set the stage for open, honest communication. We want to bring all the motivation we can to the surface so they feel an urgency to take action. We want to, bring to the surface and eliminate as many deal killers as we can. Mm-hmm. And then we're just going to present a customized solution. That's a sales process. So that's always going to be the same. Why would you? Why wouldn't you? All right, here's what I've got for you. Always the same. But their answers are going to be different, and their situations are going to be different. But it's always the same. Sales is, we've used this sales process in 50 industries, and I'm talking about on the $100 products in like telemarketing companies we've worked with, highly engineered solutions. Our biggest sale with one of the companies we worked with ever was about a $500 million sale on some technical infrastructure to Google. Exact same sales process. So it's the same in any industry. And then even within REI, different lead sources.
Yeah.
Sales is sales, man. It's the exact same. But the prospect will take it and, just give different answers and take it in different directions.
Right. Okay. Easy enough. It makes plenty of sense. Because for me personally, when I jumped into probate with direct mail, finding that perfect mail piece that didn't trigger emotions to where they were pissed, but also was kind of personal and then business-like. And then I went too personal on one mail piece and I got so many calls telling me to F off. And then finally I went straight to nothing personal about it. That I don't even mention that they're in a probate situation. And I think that's worked best for me, which is the same way I market to any other lead though. So kind of
exactly. Yeah. And when it comes to marketing, there's a lot of data around, how much emotion is to emotion. And what the data tells us, based on large email studies, cold email studies, which is the same as, mailers or anything like that. Yeah. That initial reach out to a cold prospect is, you want just a tinge of emotion. Too much, you get horrible response rates, and not enough, you get worse response rates. So you're probably hitting that sweet spot where you probably have emotion in there, but you don't even know it because it's the same marketing as everything else. So like, hey, are you kind of, do you have a house you'd like to get rid of and don't know how to, or, something you'd like to sell quickly where there's just a tinge of emotion, right? There's just a hint of it. Yeah. That's perfect. That's exactly where you need to be. Too much, not good, and none at all isn't good either.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and I'm always battling with my fiance about in my marketing pieces. For some reason, I feel like I got to put everything in there, everything that's in my mind about bringing out those motivations in somebody. But she's like, no, keep it short and sweet. So they're short and sweet. That's too short, I think, is we buy houses. But then mine are like, hey, we buy houses, we pay cash. There's no open houses, no closing costs, no this, no that. And then I'll list like, we buy houses in foreclosure, probate, green pools, back taxes. I try to like list all these potential motivators, divorce or whatever. And then I'm like, well, by the time I'm done writing this damn script here, it's a whole page long. So I'm like, is there, or even like I have a sign in my front yard because I'm on a busy road. I need to redo it because I definitely screwed up. But I wrote down, this exact same things, back taxes, green pools, foreclosures, divorces, all these motivators. Because in my mind, I'm like, I got to put everything in there that might trigger them to think about something that pains them with their real estate. Yeah. Is that necessary? I feel like I'm going way overboard, but I don't know how to dial it down to where I hit that trigger point without being too.
You're exactly right, man. Yeah, there's a sweet spot in the middle because you want to connect some of the dots for your seller. So that's what you're trying to do is say, hey, if you're in this situation, this is what this works for. So you're connecting the dots for them. Right. And truly, when we talk about objections or anything like that, the biggest objection before somebody takes a next step, doesn't mean sell their house, but just, contacts you or whatever, some type of next step is, it always falls into one bucket. The question they have that comes out 1,000 different ways. Here's the one question they have to answer for themselves is, well, what about me? Does this work for my situation, for my specific situation? Is this for me? No, I get what you do, but what about fill in the blank? What about me? What about foreclosure? What about divorce? What about, and that's the question you have to answer. Yeah. So the trick is going to be for you to answer all those questions, but in as little amount of time and real estate as possible. Yeah. So, one way to do that is you just got to start thinking outside the boxes. What's one way I can lump all those things into a couple bullet points, but they still say, yep, that's me, if that makes sense. Not going divorce, listing out, the 30 different pain points I could
I probably have. Let me see how many I have. Because I send out postcards
I'm
primarily.
guessing 24 or so, man.
It's about 12.
Okay, yeah. So it's just, see if you can whittle those down. So like one would be, if you'd like to sell quickly for any reason at all, if you'd like to sell without, repairing and pulling a real estate agent in, if you'd like to sell buy owner, but don't know exactly how to. So you start to, lots of those lump into those. We go, yeah, well, that's me. And it might be because of divorce. It might be because of this or that, but that's me. So that's what I would try to do, is lump them into the, if you'd like to sell quickly for any reason at all. If you'd like to sell by owner, but you don't know exactly how to do that, that's it. It's like, hey, you don't have to know how to do that. I'll just buy cash. You're the owner. I'm going to buy directly from you. So you could probably bring that down to 4 or so by using that kind of tactic.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's like a duh moment for me. Like, why didn't I think for any reason? Just outline it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crap! It slipped my mind. I was going to ask something else about what we did. Okay. Well, all right. I had something else I was talking about. So I've been in single family for about 2 years. And from the beginning, my goal was always to get into the commercial. And I'm trying to do that merge right now. What would you say, is there a difference, first off, talking to sellers of a commercial property? And then I want to wrap my truck with some form of advertising, but just like my direct mail, I don't want it to be a million different bullet points. And then I don't want it to say land, houses, commercial, storage, apartments. I don't want it to say all that. Do you have any recommendations at all for that?
Yeah. Again, just list out all your bullet points and then look at what 3 or 4 categories do these all fit into.
Right.
And that's how I do it. I mean, you gotta connect the dots enough so people know he is talking to me.
Yeah.
But if you list out everything, it's like, it's kind of like I read email. If I open up an email and when you open up those emails and it's all single spaced and it's like a page, when I see those, I'm like, not now. Like, I don't have the time or energy for this. I might not ever read it. I'm like, later. You don't want your marketing to get to that point. Yes, you might list everything for it, but you don't want people to tune out before they even tune in.
Yeah.
So list everything, and then just, again, what 3 or 4 buckets can I fit this into?
Yeah.
When we talk about the human mind, I'm going to get a little nerdy with you. Our mind is capable of looking at 3 to 4 variables at a time and thinking through it. Anything more than 3 or 4, then it starts to get pushed back to what's called our complex mind or our emotional brain. It can get really nerdy, but when we're talking about just logically thinking through things, anything more than 3 or 4 options is what's called a complex decision. It's processed in a different part of the brain. It's really weird and different. So I always recommend 3 or 4 is max. That's what you want to. If you have bullet points, 3 or 4, anything over that, you're hurting yourself more than you're helping yourself.
No, yeah, makes a ton of sense. Same thing, emails, Facebook post. If it's too long, I oftentimes don't even bother with it. And actually, if you do a Facebook ad, it won't let you do a ton of verbiage because Facebook knows people tone out or they zone out after a few seconds. Same thing with their video marketing. Okay. What would you say, let's say for my direct mail, I used to put one phone number on there, but then I read somewhere that you should probably put in there multiple locations and then put verbiage like call now for more information, call me ASAP or stuff like that, trigger points in multiple locations. Is that something good?
Yeah, I mean, the more calls to action, I mean, it's good. I kind of have a different thought about that, though. It's not just about volume. It's about, there's 2 pieces to that. When we're marketing, we want them to take action. So there has to be some type of scarcity.
Yep.
So you want some type of act now in there, whether you just literally say act now. I'd probably lean towards the, hey, I'm going to buy 3 or 4 houses this month. Contact me if you'd like yours to be considered, right? Because that builds in enough scarcity. Like, all right, they will be buying. If I'm serious, like I'm going to hop on this. I don't want, to call and go like, hey, I already bought my 3 or 4, sorry. Right.
Yeah.
So that's how I'd use instead of just saying act now, I'd probably phrase it a little differently for the same reason. It's for scarcity's sake.
Right.
Now for multiple, the other thing about that is we've got to realize today that people communicate in different ways. There are some people that are old school and they need a phone conversation. Like, no, I'm not doing the text thing. I'm not emailing. If you're serious, let's talk. There's some people who are just as serious, but they're going, you will not get me on the phone there's no way. Like, we text or we email. And then even between text and email, there's some people who are like, I'm not opening up an email account. That's a waste of time. Like, I check it once a month. Like, I text. I do everything through text. I know investors that do all their dispositions through text, right?
Yeah.
So we all have these communication preferences. So in marketing, it's just important you have that scarcity, but then you also allow them to contact you however they see fit. Same thing as if like you leave a voicemail. When I leave a voicemail, it's always like, hey, you can call me back at this number. If you prefer to use email, here's my email address. Or if it's easier just text me back at the same number. That's completely fine too. Because that way you get all of them, right? It's like, oh yeah, I'll never call them back. But yeah, I'll text like, hey, this is me. What's your offer, whatever it is. Right. So just make sure you have that scarcity. Scarcity works best, I think, is if you phrase it a little differently than just like, do it now. Right. But then also let them communicate however they're most comfortable. You want to, in marketing, you just want to lower all the barriers that are going to keep them from taking action. Yeah. So if they think it's a forever offer and they can take action at any time, that's going to keep them from acting. And if you're forcing them to interact with you or take a next step in a way that they're uncomfortable with, that's going to also prevent them from taking that next action. So those are my two biggest probably points I'd make there.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's a good point too, is without saying act now or you'll lose out type of verbiage, the limited availability triggers that same thought. That's a good point. And
it's a lot more authentic too.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Well, man, I don't want to take up your whole morning. Let's talk about how people can reach you. Sure. I know you do quite a bit of public speaking through a ton of masterminds. And like I said before, I've gotten your scripts. You post PDFs of that fairly frequently. Yeah. And then I've been associated with Beast Mode, so I got some scripts there. But you offer scripts for outbound cold calls, text messages. I'm pretty sure I had your text message.
Yeah, we got, lots. Inbound, outbound, cold calling. All that stuff's free. You can get it through our website. And there's video trainings on there on how to use them. So I'll just give you all the places to get that stuff. So midwestrev.com, that's Midwest, and REV is in revenue, midwestrev.com is our website. There's a videos page there with like 80 to 100 free training videos. There's places to join our email drip, and the first email you get is, hey, here's how to get all of our scripts, so you can get them there. We've got a YouTube channel by the same name, Midwest Revenue Group, our company name. And there's all those same videos plus videos on like, here's how to write your own scripts. Here's how to deliver these scripts, all that kind of stuff. So between the website, our email drip, there's also access to a video thing we have called you get by joining our email list, called the 21-day sales challenge, REI sales challenge. A lot of people really seem to get a lot out of and like. All those things are completely free. You don't have to do anything for them. You don't have to buy anything. And we give it away. And it's kind of funny because something I'm really proud of, that at first I didn't know how to feel about it, but now I'm very proud of, is all of the big name coaches out there. I'm not going to mention them. All the big programs, all the big masterminds, they're all using our scripts for everything. And I don't think they know where they came from. You hear, and then someone gives you something and they get around. But what we have found is our scripts that we've written are like 90% of what everyone uses nowadays, not knowing even where they came from. And I think the reason is because I'm not from real estate, because I come from more of a traditional business to business sales training environment that I think has progressed a little quicker as far as changing with the times and sales strategies and stuff than REI. Yeah. We were able to bring a lot of that outside stuff into the industry for the first time, just because we had been in so many industries and stuff like that. Right. And so for me nowadays, whenever I see our stuff, which I do every day, it's like, that is absolutely awesome. It means it's working. People like it. Yeah. So we give all that, and it doesn't, I don't mind at all, because we give it all away for free. And I think people should use it. If it works, then use it for Pete's sake. So get it all for free, man. We give it all away.
Cool. No, yeah. I mean, same thing for me. I mean, I've seen it all over Facebook, obviously, Bigger Pockets, and I'm sure quite a few other platforms. And I wrap up every interview with one last question, kind of bring my interviewee into the here and the now and kind of get off topic a little bit. But if you had 6 months to live, what would you do with it?
I mean, that's a no-brainer, man. It's just spend time with my family, making more memories.
Right.
Just easy as can be. There'd be all of zero work involved. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, man, I appreciate it. I've got your website here, your YouTube, and I think that's it, man. I appreciate all the golden nuggets. I'm definitely going to check out the website. I don't know. I hadn't before. I guess I had access to some of the scripts already, but I mean, 100 videos. I mean, I got to work on my sales skills anyway. So.
Hey, man, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. It was cool.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
See you, man.
All right. Later.